Hello everyone, how's it going today? Chelsea Face here, and I'm excited to bring you the books that I read for the month of April 2020. I read a fair amount of books this month, and it's only like 3 or 4 days till the end of the month, but I know I'm not going to finish anything within that time. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap things up and get this video up for you guys, just so you know what I read, and I can start a TBR for the next month. Overall, I had a really good month. I think a lot of the books I read were rated very high, as a lot of the books I've been reading this year have been. I've been much more selective of the books that I've been checking out. And so I think that's why my year has been so great, because I haven't been reading as many random arcs that I find. The first thing I read this month was an audiobook, which I also have a physical copy of, Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This is a book that I have always wanted to read. I am trying to slowly make my way through Stephen King's backlog. I can only do audiobooks for him as of right now. I struggle with physically reading his books because they are so descriptive and they take so long to get there. I don't hate that though. I think that it's really good for audiobook listening. I think that a movie, it's too glossed over, and with a book, it takes too long. So I think an audiobook for me is perfect because I'm seeing everything and also I'm hearing everything, so it's just easier for me to absorb. That's why I prefer them that way. But I still want to own them physically once I've read them if I like them. And this is one that I'm very, 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 very happy that I read. I rated it 5 stars. This, I had seen the movie years ago and I liked it okay, but I did not expect to love this book as much as I did. It rivals It in my head. Like, I don't know if I can pick between the two now. I know It I have a history with, so it might still just be there because of nostalgia. But this is at least number 2, if not number 1, because the audiobook started off with an intro by Stephen King about how some of this stems from real life for him and how his son almost got hit by a vehicle on the same situation kind of highway thing. And he drew from what could have happened and then made it like horror science fiction-y kind of thing. So it's truly terrifying to think about it that way. Like, this is something that in a way could have happened, and you get to go through so much of the lives. This family that is a small boy, toddler age, a girl who's probably, I can't remember, 9 or 10. She's fairly young. The father and the mother, and they move to this new town, like this small little town, and then they're kind of on the outskirts of it, and they live next to this huge highway that takes all these giant 18-wheeler vehicles that kill lots of animals because they're just so fast. And when you have animals out in the wild and they're not used to vehicles, they tend to get run over more likely. So it's known that animals get killed on this highway a lot. Their neighbor, they get close with him. He's an older man with his wife. It's just forming their relationship, and the husband is a doctor, so he works at the university. And so he gets, to see pretty normal health problems, but then also there's a tragic thing that happens there and it kind of scars him. And I would even surmise to say that you could theorize that this was all in his head, like after he saw a very traumatic case in that hospital, that all of this was in his head and that he had just lost everything. Like, he had just went somewhere that he wasn't in his head, and you could say that this was all in his brain. But what actually happened was he finds this pet cemetery near where he lives because of his neighbor. If you bury an animal there, they come back to life, and the things that pursue from that. And should he make this decision? Should he not? He's got spirits telling him he should or shouldn't. And the neighbor doesn't know why he told him about it. And it's just a lot of supernatural things going on here. And also something that was not explored in the older movie, because I have yet to see the newer one. I don't know if they explain it in that one. I can't wait to see it though. I'm very, very excited. There's also a creature that has a lot to do with the pet cemetery, like a mythological horror creature. I don't want to spoil too much for you, but there's something involved with that and why this place is so cursed and different, and why these creatures can come back to life. It's just crazy from there. Like, I cannot recommend this book enough. I don't want to spoil too much for you, but it's a lot of tragedy, a lot of eerie, just scary, terrifying scenes. I was truly on the edge of my seat when I was listening to this book. I drive to work every day for about an hour there and back, and then it's another hour. It's a 2-hour commute if you count both trips. Anyways, I listened to this so fast and it was so amazing. I cannot recommend this enough to you guys. I'll stop talking about it now. The next book that I read was Soul of the Sword by Julie Kagawa. This is the second book in the Shadow of the Fox series that I've been telling you guys about, and I was really skeptical at first when I started this one. I was very, very excited to get it, and it took forever to find a copy that wasn't ridiculously expensive. I was trying to find a used copy, but I ended up just buying it brand new. I had ordered it before all of this stay-at-home stuff had started. And so I paid probably $13, $14 for it, which is pretty good because normally it's $20 US. So I got a fairly decent deal on it. This is the middle book of a trilogy. And it's a story about a girl who is a half kitsune. She finds these friends, different backgrounds, different states of their life, in a feudal era of Japan. And they go on a journey, and it's very Inuyasha-esque if you've ever read the manga Inuyasha or watched the anime. And it feels like that mixed with Dragon Ball Z, because they are trying to collect pieces of a scroll that, when collected all of the pieces, you get a wish, and it's usually very big and dramatic, and the world is changed by this wish. And I think it's every 1,000 years the dragon comes back to grant this wish. And so in the first book, we kind of get to know everyone and how they're going and what they're doing. And in this one, we're on the journey and on the way. And there's a character who is possessed by a sword demon, a demon inside of his sword. He gets possessed and overcome by that monster. And so he's trying to battle that. And this is what happens within that and them on their journey. So the next book will wrap it all up. It's called Night of the Dragon, I think. And I've already ordered it. It's just on backlog because of all of the stuff going on right now. So I probably won't get it for a good while, which is fine. I'm not immediately wanting to dive into the last book. I want to kind of savor this one a little bit longer and then get that one started. So I'm very excited to complete this series. I gave this one 5 stars. They're all so good. I did not know this. Okay, I haven't heard a ton of people talking about this series because I'm fairly new to fantasy. This is an LGBTQ book. That might be a spoiler for some people, but I feel like that's something that people don't really know about it. Like, this had some really interesting stuff going on in it, and I was screaming by the end of part 2. Or part 1, I can't remember, but there's a scene where you find out a character is LGBTQ, and I screamed. I was so excited because it was just like a plot point that I did not know about, and it was so sweet and so precious, and I just cannot wait to see what that turns into. This is so good, you guys. Like, I really want more people to read this series, and I'm definitely going to check out more I'm definitely going to check out more of her books. The next thing I read was Revival Volume 3. I kept telling you guys I was going to read this one, and I finally did it, and was not disappointed. I gave this one 4 stars. It is still very good. I think that the only thing I could really say that I didn't like about this is it is starting to get a little bit more confusing because it's jumping around more than usual, I feel like. The series tends to jump around from page to page, scene to scene, kind of like a TV show would, and I think it would do really well as a TV show. But it's jumping around a lot more, I think, in this one because I think something's about to happen. There's some in-between stuff going on in this volume that is a little bit boring, but I understand that it's necessary for the big kabooms to happen. You know what I mean? Like with a comic or a manga, you're going to have the in-between episodes and stuff where it's not as interesting because there's not as much action, but it's still necessary and does give you some new character development. There's a girl character in this that she goes through something that is insane and really gross and gory, but I love that part. It was so cool. And there's a lot of blood, guts, gore in this, so be aware. You know, there's a scene in here I'm looking at right now where someone puts a bunch of blood and guts inside of a body bag thing and explodes it, and it goes all over these men. So just, you know, lots of trigger warnings for that kind of stuff. It's a zombie story, not so typical zombies, where people who died are coming back to life, but they're kind of like normal and living their everyday life. It's what happens with this small town and all that going on. They're trying to figure out what's causing that. Very cool story, very cop-centric. There is a main character who's a cop. So it's investigative. So, you know, if you're interested in that kind of thing, I highly recommend this series. I already have the 4th one in my cart ready to buy once I get the extra funds to do so, which won't be too long from now. And I can't wait to continue. Very, very good series. This next book I read, I was very, very excited to get because I have seen people on BookTube talking about this one. It was printed a couple years ago, I think. It's not a super new book, but I have had it on my TBR for a long time and never gotten a copy. And that's Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. I haven't read a lot of contemporary books because I feel like they would be too chick lit for me, you know, just kind of blah. I like intense or very serious topics usually, or something interesting or action of some sort is going on. I was very weary, but also very like excited and curious about this one because I knew it was LGBTQ, and also it just sounded interesting from the reviews I saw. It's about a girl who lives on an island with her twin sister and their mother, and their family is magical. They have I guess a genetic thing that goes on with the women where they get some kind of magical power. It explains all of that and goes into the history, and there's this bird that comes to the island every year, and there's tourists that come to see this bird, and it's very famous. It's the only one they've seen of this bird, and they think it's like a person. And it goes into each character's magical powers. The mom is awesome in this book. She's very sweet and very interesting. I think she's not a typical mother in a book. She kind of, she's not perfect, but she's still realistic in my opinion, as far as magical moms go. It was very sweet. There is a trigger warning in this book. I will link in the cards my review of it, and the trigger is also a spoiler, so I will review that in that review if you want to know the trigger. But just be warned, it is a spoiler, but it is a very serious trigger that I feel like I didn't hear anyone talk about. But I did want to let you know that that's a thing, and I can't recommend this enough. I gave it 5 stars. Read it so fast. I think I read it in 2 days because I was just enjoying the heck out of it and I could not put it down. It has a hidden message in it, which is not that hidden, but at the very end you find out what this is actually about. I just love it so much. I think I paid $5 for this used, and it looks brand new. It's originally $18, and this is the hardcover, and the cover is gorgeous, by the way. I love this, and I want to read more Katrina Leno in the future. It's only like 250 something pages, so it's an easy, quick read. Great for someone who's looking into magical, but also contemporary books. Maybe a little bit of darkness to it, if you get what I'm saying. I want to read this again someday. I'm so excited that I finally read it. The next book I read was a manga, and it is volume 7 of Kiss Him Not Me by Junko. This is a series that I'm loving. Way more than I probably should. This is a series about a girl who has lost a ton of weight. It's a little problematic at the beginning, but once you get past that, it's great. Where she gets depressed because her favorite character in an anime died, and so she loses a ton of weight because of her depression, and now all these guys want to date her. And so she's juggling all of these guys' hearts, and at this point in the story, she has told them she can't choose. And so I think we have a whole other 7 books after this one. She actually chooses. I think I actually heard that she does pick someone, so I'm very, very excited to see how that goes. Look how cute they are on the back here, all cuddled up together. I think they go to a town to celebrate a character. She's obsessed with this character, even though it's a character in an anime that was based off someone in history. So it kind of just fangirls are all there at the shrine, and it's just really a fun story about all these characters learning about history and flirting, and we get a little bit closer to a couple of the guys, which is always fun. This is not a kids series, I don't think. It's rated T, 13 plus, but I think it might, whatever. It'd be fine either way, but it's so good. Highly recommend it. Can't wait. I've already gotten volume 8 in the mail, so I'm gonna start that one soon. I gave this one 5 stars as well. The next thing I read was Lois Duncan's Killing Mr. Griffin. This is a copy that I got for 25 cents at a thrift store. There's so many different versions of these books, and this one was pretty cool looking. It has his feet on the front. So you already know Mr. Griffin dies, so no spoiler there. But this book is about a group of teens. This is a teen YA mystery murder story, similar to Fear Street, but they do go a little bit more in depth with the horror aspect of it. So they're a little bit more scary, but I don't remember any cursing in this. I think Lois Duncan's other book that I read didn't have cursing in it, if I can remember correctly. I've only read one other of her books, but she has passed away. This book is about a group of teens. You have your typical characters like the jock, the preppy cheerleader, the not so hot girl, the boyfriend-esque character, and so on and so forth. One of the characters is very obviously the bad guy. You get to know who he is, and he's obviously a sociopath, probably a psychopath. And you're led with a mystery of, did one of the friends kill Mr. Griffin? Did someone else kill Mr. Griffin? Also, you're led with the mystery of who's killing all these other people, because the kids' family members are dying and things are happening, and it's just a whodunit kind of thing. And it's pretty obvious from the beginning, in my opinion, who did it. It's not a super, super thought-provoking story about it, but I feel like this would be really good for teens. If you're okay with your teen reading a book including some murder, but not super gory, I mean, it's got murder in it, but it's also got mystery and loss of a parent, loss of family members, just violence in general. If you're okay with your kid reading about certain things like that, it's not too bad, honestly. I would recommend this to teens if they can handle those kinds of situations. But there is animal abuse in this as well. Like, clearly, yeah, you murder an animal in this. And I feel like that's the only real warning I can give to this, is it, I gave it 3 stars because I think that it is a great book, but I also feel like it was very predictable, but written very well, very interesting. I can't wait to read more of Lois Griffin's books. They are something that I look forward to. The next thing I read was Elevation by Stephen King. This was a audiobook I think it's only like 150 pages in the book. I have to buy a copy, but I haven't gotten one yet. And I found it on my library's app for free, and I listened to it on my way to work for 2 or 3 days, and I have to say I really enjoyed this. I knew it wasn't a horror story, so I wasn't like disappointed or anything. I just didn't know what to expect at all. It's a kind of lighthearted story about an older man who notices one day that he is starting to lose weight fairly rapidly, but his body mass isn't changing. So he's concerned as to, is this some kind of like sickness that I have, or is this some kind of supernaturally radiation related thing? And he doesn't want to go to an actual doctor because he's afraid that he'll spend the rest of his life or way too much time in a hospital being studied, and he doesn't want to become a government experiment. And also he thinks it might kill him because if he keeps losing weight, he thinks he'll die. And so he doesn't want to live the rest of his life in a hospital or in a study chamber. So it's understandable that he doesn't want to go to a doctor, in my opinion. But he goes to a friend who's a retired doctor, and he talks to him about it, and he's the first person he tells. And he tells him to go to a doctor, but also he understands why he won't. So he just tells him he'll keep track of what's happening, and they'll talk about it. And they are friends. And then he meets this lesbian couple that live down the street, and it becomes a story of softening the lesbian couple and him understanding their troubles. I could see why some people might think this is a straight white man saves lesbians story, but I don't feel like it was meant to be that way. Personally, I think it was a very heartwarming story about opening up the heart of one of the lesbians and getting to know them, and them understanding where he's coming from, and that he's not just trying to help them to be a savior of gay people. I think that it was just a very sweet story about their friendship and blossoming into something special, and getting to know more people in the town and letting them know that just because they're married does not mean that they are ruining anyone else's life. Because it is a small town, there are a few references to other Stephen King books within this book. I think that's a very fun thing that Stephen King does. It's very Clamp-esque. And I think overall the very ending, it was sort of meh, but I kind of expected the ending. It wasn't bad. But I did give this one 3 stars because of the ending. I think that the journey was much more enjoyable than the ending, so just be prepared for that. It was a very short, quick reads, but I think it's worth it. I think that it's more something I want to read from Stephen King, not so much. I love his horror, it's fantastic, but I also really like this. It was very soft and fun. The last book I read this month was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Guys, I've had this on my shelf forever, similar to Gone Girl that I had on my shelf forever because everyone was talking about it and I'd never read it. I found it also for free on the audiobooks, and I was like, well, why not? I have it. If I hate it, I'll get rid of it, and I'll know. I really liked this. I think I gave it 4 stars, and I was very surprised. I was expecting to hate this because the whole world, like book clubs and famous people, love this book. Like, it gets high acclaim, but all the booktubers I've watched hated it, or thought it was meh. And so I thought I would probably side with my booktuber people over this, but honestly, I more side with society, I guess. I did not like the writing. I think that it was kind of jumbly and went all over the place. It did say who was talking in this, but the audiobook, the voice of Anna was very monotone and robotic, and I did not like her voice actress. Nothing against her, of course, but it just did not sound like a person acting. And the other ones were very good, but I liked Megan. She was a very interesting character with a lot of flaws and a lot of problems and a lot of personal growth that needed to happen. She's very young and stupid, and I felt bad for her, even though she kind of caused the things that started happening to her. I really, really liked her a lot because she was the one who I saw the most coming from, the most stuff going on. I feel like our main character, Rachel, did not grow at all in this book. Supposedly she got over her alcohol abuse, but I don't believe that she would have completely gotten off of it just based off of what happened in this book. She was very, very alcoholic. and very, very triggery for alcohol abuse and alcoholism. If you have a problem with that, like personally, I don't think you should read this. I think that it might really, really trigger alcohol abuse. Like even me, I wanted to go get some wine after I read this. And I'm not an alcoholic, so I can't imagine how hard this would be for someone who struggles with that. So just tread with caution. Also, there's death and murder and cheating, all that kind of stuff. So that's also in this. I think that it takes a while to get to the thrilling aspect of this and the mystery of who done it, because that's pretty much what this is a who done it kind of thing. And I didn't think it was 100% predictable. I did kind of waver between two characters the whole time. Plus, you also have your unreliable narrator because she was constantly blackout drunk. And so you don't know if she saw what she saw or if she's making things up in her head. So it's you don't know what's happening. It's frustrating because you want her to remember, but she can't because she was so drunk. And also you don't blame her for that because it is an illness. And it's a constant struggle. But I did like it. I really enjoyed the ending and I enjoyed the journey, even though the writing was kind of all over the place. I think that this book should be read by more people, even though a lot of people have read it. And I'm glad that I liked it. It's definitely one that I'm happy to keep on my shelves now. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them in the comments, like their star ratings or anything like that. If you liked any of them in particular and know of something similar that I should read, let me know because I love those books. Most of them, I don't think I hated any of the books I read this month. Most of them were 3 or above, so I'd be happy with recommendations of manga, comics, or regular books. That's all I have for you today. Please stay safe, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and like this video, and I'll see you in my May TBR. Bye guys!